countdown to the last comic shop in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, hey! And it is now time for the 250th episode of the Last Comic Shop Podcast!
That is right! No more bells when we open the door. It's big fanfare. Listen to those trumpets.
Right.
We've got those confetti machines that they have at the NBA.
Who's going to clean up all this confetti?
That's why Ethan's here.
That's why you bring me on here.
That is why
The
Ethan's
janitor.
here.
Oh, don't give Ethan some respect too, why don't you? Jeez Louise. Gotta be kind to our guests.
I am the host with the most, Danny Larson, and I'm joined by our wonderful guest, Ethan Larson, as well as my co-hosts, J.A. Scott and Chad Smith, who have sat with me over 250 episodes and talked about comics, and we hope that you have all enjoyed it. And we've got another one for you today, because what's better than celebrating 249 books, but doing a 250th book? And what's this week's book, Ethan? It was, I think, your pick for a 250th episode.
This is this isn't quite a year of Ethan pick, but this is a
Ethan's pick of the year instead of the year.
There you go, perfect. All-Star Western from the New 52.
Now, again, there was an All-Star Western series that ran, I think, in the 60s and 70s, but this was the New 52 version.
Yeah, back whenever this came out, like early aughts, I want to say, was that like 2011? I was reading this blog. I don't know how I found this guy. I think he was like on the city paper or something, but he had his own blog because it said, "Be more nerdy," like be more as in like Baltimore. And so I would follow him along, and he said, "Oh, this New 52 is terrible, but that the All-Star Western is awesome." And so like I got it all stuck in my head that this All-Star Western was like the Revenants. And I think like, New 52 was maligned, and now it's, it's kind of cool again. I don't know.
Well, I think the thing is, it was painted with a broad brush at the time. There were plenty of success stories. There were lots of great books, but for, every time there was a great book, like Scott Snyder's Batman, the Wonder Woman run was great. You had Grant Morrison's Action Comics. For all the good there was out of the New 52, there were also a lot of books that were not so bueno. And then you had the third category where there were the big swings, where at least initially in the New 52, they were trying things they hadn't tried in a long, long time, and trying to bring everything together in one continuity. So there wasn't, the Vertigo house, there wasn't the DC house, There were definitely some cool experiments that came about because of it. But I think now, the dust has settled and people, have recognized there were some good books out there. And Dan Didio was a big Dickio and hated JLI all through New 52.
All-Star Western has always been good out of that. Like universally accepted, it's a quality book, right?
Well, we're about to see. I mean, we're going to be reviewing it later in this program, but Chad brings up an interesting point. Big swings, whether or not certain books should have been made, should not have been made, whether they were good, whether they were not good. And I think that dovetails into our opening segment, which is a brand new game that our game master himself, Ethan Larson, has come up to pick the brains of all of us here at the Last Comic Shop. Ethan, do you want to unpack this?
Well, yeah, sure. So it's football season, and we're full-on NFL action, baby. I was listening to my football podcast, and they came up with this concept of basically a way to separate the stars quarterbacks of the league and the not-so-star quarterbacks. And I think there's somebody right in the middle. It was Andy Dalton, if you remember Andy Dalton, the prolific redheaded ginger on the Cincinnati Bengals. They came up with the Dalton line, which is basically like, if for baseball aficionados, the Mendoza line. Whether you're a star, you can carry the team, or you're not so quite good.
It's a much more fun way of denoting wins above replacement.
There you go. You could win
nerdy.
with Andy Dalton, but you're not going to win because of Andy Dalton.
So I applied this concept to comic books, and what made me think of this is the JLA, the classic, the Magnificent Seven. We got, Superman obviously can carry his own book, Batman, Wonder Woman. I keep going down the line, and I got to Green Lantern. He's got the Lantern Corps. There's like 7 different Green Lanterns. And so I was like, okay, this is the person that's like the line. And so I'm sorry, Martian Manhunter and all your fans. I just don't think that you're quality enough to carry your own book. And so I've dubbed this segment the Lantern Line. Because it's, it's literate too. So what we're going to do is we're going to go around the table and we're going to nominate somebody who was on a team and basically say, could they carry their own book? Or should they carry their own book? Because I know, Lord knows, most of these people have had their own books at some time. Whether or not they're successful, that's to debate.
Now, so let's go ahead and start out with the first round of the Lantern Line. We're going to go to Chad. Chad's going to throw out our first candidate here for the Lantern Line. So who do we got, Chad?
So I hope I'm not stepping on Jay's toes, because Jay is our resident exophile. But there's an X character that I think, from his introduction, was poised to be a breakout character. He was poised to be the centerpiece of the team. He was the guy, in those first initial covers. He was always in center place on all those covers of the new X-Men when that generation came along. And then what do you know? This little run Wolverine pops up and steals all the thunder eventually. But I always wondered, could you make a great book out of Colossus from the X-Men?
Ooh.
He's got the Chrome. He's got the sister, who's the emissary from hell. To my knowledge, there's never been, other than like maybe a mini series here or there. I know there's been like God and Country and some things, but there's never been a dedicated Colossus book.
Strong silent type with the body of a warrior and heart of a poet, if you will.
He's been conflicted. He'd spent some time on Asteroid M.
Listen, the one problem I've always had with Colossus is I've never been able to figure out, well, how strong really is Colossus? When you put him up against folks like The Thing, the Hulk, Thor, like your big super powerhouses that are anchoring teams. Colossus always seemed like, yeah, he's made of liquid metal, organic metal, I should say. But I never was able to put my thumb on like, how strong is this dude? Like, and I think that's one of those questions that, as a result of never being able to figure that out, I just kind of glossed over and said, man, he's just on a team. Like, he's just there to throw Wolverine at people. Like, that's all.
I was just going to say, part of the other problem, too, that I just see is even if you were to start, like, his own book, wouldn't it be, like, the first, like, 6 issues would be anchored with some X-Men person to get people on board? Like, would you have to throw in Wolverine in the first issue, and then you'd have to throw in, like...
Kitty Pryde? But J.A., you're our X-File. Am I wrong? Where's he lying? Is he below or above the Lantern line here?
I think, unfortunately, he's below. I mean, he's not even the most interesting person in his own family. So, this is a man who grew up as a farmer in Russia, and he's as white as the wheat he used to sow. So, it's just, he's boring.
He doesn't have to be. He's so sexy and chrome. Come on, J.A. Yeah. Sexy and
The
chrome.
only time he looked good is when Mark Silvestri was drawing him in jorts.
There you go. I like the modern Colossus look, though. I think he's a sexy man. He's a sexy Russian man.
All right. Well, he's definitely falling below the Lantern line. So that's our first candidate there. J.A., why don't you throw out your candidate?
So Chad, in apologizing, actually kind of picked out my thought process because I had Colossus. I was thinking Colossus, and then I was like, yeah, but he's too far below. We need someone who's slightly above, and I'm going with Rogue.
Ooh.
That's who I was going to throw at. I thought you were going to throw out Storm.
I think she's still below the Lantern line, to be honest. There's actually not a lot of members of the X-Men I would put above the Lantern line. I don't even think I'd put like Cyclops above the Lantern line, just because like I feel like Cyclops is he's just a member of the team. You need the other X-Men around him to anchor that. So I'm hard pressed to actually come up with any X-Men that I jump off other than Wolverine that I could be like, yeah, he's above the Lantern line in terms of at least carrying your own book, right? They're fine on the X-Men, but carry your own book and be solo. So Rogue's unfortunately below that as well. So.
What, you don't think Marrow can carry her own book? Is that what you're trying to say?
Maggot. No, I've seen Rogue had her own miniseries a handful of times, and she had her book with Gambit, the Mr. and Mrs. X-Men or whatever it was. And unfortunately, as someone who also threw out an X-Man, like I think Andy's right, where the X-Men are so intertwined, and especially since I still haven't washed the taste of Krakoa out of my mouth, like it's hard for me to imagine people breaking out of the X universe and making that successful transition. But Rogue does have, Miss Marvel breathing down her neck, but that's still got to be an uneasy alliance. She too has the shifty morality. She's been the villain. She's been teamed up with Magneto.
I was going to say, she also got a dump truck. So.
I was hoping somebody would point out the elephant in the room, which is lots of dirty old men out there that would love a Rogue in the Savage Land book. Unfortunately, that sex sells, and Rogue's always been somebody that's played that part really well. I think she's closer to the Lantern line than Colossus. I think she's a little bit, especially if you put her in a Gambit book, maybe
Gambit's, but it's an interesting concept though, because you think of all the X-Men who have had their own books, and there's not a lot, to Andrew's point, besides Wolverine and Dazzler. Don't forget Dazzler. Are we saying that Dazzler, she's not quite Peyton Manning, she's more Eli Manning?
Yes, correct. She just stumbled into 2 Super Bowls and stumbled into her own book. That's how she wins, Dazzler. Yeah, I think I'm going to drop a nuclear bomb here. I'm going to say Robin. By Robin, I mean any Robin. Period. Not Nightwing. Not Nightwing. Let's qualify that. Just Robin.
Okay. So any of the Robins.
So here's my argument for decline. What is Robin's Rogues Gallery? All of Batman's villains, basically, right? That's true.
Yes. Blockbuster, maybe? And who knows Blockbuster other than like the 3 people in this room? You take out all of the Bat mythology, all the bad guys that Batman brings, all of the supporting characters that Batman brings. You eliminate Babs from the equation. You eliminate all that jazz. You're not left with a lot. So it's very heavily riding on the coattails of another guy. In football terms, this is that backup quarterback that just happens to be right behind your franchise and, is sometimes thrown in the game once in a while. And you're like, all right.
So he's like Doug Flutie. He's the Doug Flutie quarterback.
Yeah, not to date myself, but like Jim Kelly, Buffalo Bills quarterback in the 90s, had Frank Wright as his backup. Tremendous backup. Won the comeback game against the Oilers. Man, I'm so old.
Jeez Louise. Now I'm old because I remember when Robin carried his own book for 184 issues or whatever it was.
That was Tim Drake, right? Drake was the one. Yeah.
That was a Tim Drake Robin. But I honestly, then I'm going to argue Ethan's point for him. I think you could take any Robin. You could take Damian and you could have a solid book with Damian as Robin. The Super Sons book with Damian and John Kent before they aged him up. That was a great book. And then you have not only like Batman's Rogues and the Talia al Ghul, pop it in as his mom. You also have the teenage relatability factor. You can have those fun, silly stories, with those kids. You could have, the teen romance. You could bring in all the other younger characters in the universe and mix them up. You can have Bat-Cow pop it in, or the cryptos and that sort of thing. There would be a market. Does there need to be a Robin book? Probably not. But does there need to be 65 Batman books? Not true there either.
Yeah. All right, last question. Can Robin carry his own CW show that nobody will watch?
No, yes, because CW is this weird place where you don't think anyone watches it, and then they release their numbers, and it's like millions of views. Like, who is?
Yeah.
They gave Alfred a show.
I'm going to put Robin above the Lantern line. I think that, to Chad's point, do you need a lot of Robin books? Is it really propped up by other characters from other books? Is it really propped up by Batman? Sure, but Batman's so strong. He's just yanking Robin over that line. He's like, no. He is the sidekick. Is there any sidekick in all of comic books which is as important or as well known as Robin? No. He's the guy. So if you're going to give any sidekick a comic, you're going to give it to Robin.
And let's go back and remember we talked to Jim Starlin, the guy who killed the second Robin? I remember in our conversation with Jim Starlin, creator of Thanos, super impressive comic genius. He was talking about how whenever they took Robin and made him Nightwing, they pissed off the marketing people something fierce because there needs to be a Robin. Robin needs to be a thing. And so that's why you got Jason Todd basically that just showed up and they're like, yeah, just make him look the same. People didn't realize it was a different Robin because they didn't change much for the sake of appeasing the marketing folks that are like, no, Robin's a recognizable character. I would say Robin, in general, he's definitely above your Martian Manhunters. I'd put him on par with the Flash, maybe 5.
I would put him higher than the Flash.
If you're talking about a Trinity, I would put him at 4. I would seriously put him at 4. I'd be like Batman and Robin, Superman, Wonder Woman. That's it. Because Batman and Robin are such a dynamic duo. They're intertwined. It's only been in the last, 30 years that Batman has really become I'm Batman. And it was primarily because of the Tim Burton movie. People were like, oh, sidekicks are no good. So we'll just have Batman by himself. But before that, it was Batman, Robin. You couldn't shake a stick without hitting both of them. The Beatles of the DC universe instead of the Trinity.
I think Flash is sneaky, man. Flash has had his own show for years.
All right. Above or below? Final say. I'm saying above. Chad's saying above.
You convinced me. I'll go above.
Yeah. Right. I don't know about the top 4. But arguments. That's another argument for another day. I don't think he belongs to the Pantheon, but I'll go with above the Lantern line.
Well, here's the last one, and this one's for me, and I've been saving this all show. Because you want to talk about a nuclear bomb being dropped on this program. Here it comes, folks.
Just say
the
Vision.
Silver Surfer. That's right. The Silver Surfer. Above or below that Lantern line. Should he have a book? Hasn't had a long-standing book in 30 years. But is that on purpose?
What do you mean in 30 years? He got
the Dan Slott one. You're right. You're right. But this is it's a legit argument because I do feel like it's not.
There's no legitimacy to your argument at all. He's well above the Lantern line.
This is the best.
In fact,
this is the best.
Not only has he appeared in 2 different versions in the movie theater, both of those versions were a hell of a lot better than Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, but he was with the Fantastic Four.
That's true. It wasn't the Silver Surfer movie.
Yeah.
It was,
and they had to gender change him to be interesting. Come on, man.
Oh snap!
Ooh.
Again, this is not picking on JA. I love the Silver Surfer.
But that's okay.
No, I think I love the Silver Surfer. I really do enjoy his books. I did read Silver Surfer Volume 3. I love it. He's a very good part of the overall tapestry of the Marvel Universe. But is he a star? Is he somebody that can carry his own book and can be for a really long time and generate a lot of interest? It's a legit question.
Sorry, I'm just watching J.A. stack all of his omnibuses of Silver Surfer and shoving them in Andy's.
I can't hear you over the size of my omnibus stack.
Well, okay, so my big argument is how important is the cosmic side of Marvel to you? Because the Silver Surfer is the anchor of the cosmic Marvel. If you're going to have Guardians of the Galaxy out there, as a regular thing, if you're going to have Thanos and Galactus and all those cosmic characters, and you want them to be a primary focus, then you need a Silver Surfer book out there. But at the same time, there's been a lot of years where Marvel's like,
My big question is that when they originally decided to put together the Guardians of the Galaxy book, Abnett and Lanning, right? They pulled like a bunch of D-list characters that nobody knew about, right? Is the reason why they didn't say like, yeah, put Silver Surfer on there is because Silver Surfer was too well known of a quantity. They'll be like, no, you're playing fast and loose with our character. Ethan.
You guys brought up an interesting point in your Fantastic Four review, which is very good and it's evergreen. You should go back and listen to it because the content of the actual issues that you guys, when you gush about it, it's fantastic. It's probably one of the best episodes you guys have ever done. But Stan went to Jack Kirby and said, I want the Fantastic Four to meet God. Well, then they met Jesus too. How can I put Space Jesus below the Lantern line? I mean, Jesus, for God's sake. There's a lot you can do with Space Jesus, for sure.
The reason why he wasn't on the Guardians, I think, one, he's too big of a known quantity. I'd agree with that. Also, he works as Kane from Kung Fu. He's that lone character that wanders the desert that is space, fixing wrongs and making rights and trying to atone for his original sin of killing millions of people by leading Galactus to their world and allowing him to eat it. Why Marvel has gotten away from that? I could say it's lack of imagination. They're not exactly, going out and pushing the envelope all the time. Sometimes they do, and it's good. Sometimes they don't. So we've got a 5-issue miniseries where they kill him yet again or something. It's called The Death of the Silver Surfer. I don't know if he's going to die or not. He's died many times, but Silver Surfer, I think, is as the Space Jesus, he can just resurrect.
Yeah. Chrome is sexy. You're not keeping Chrome down.
My final say, and I think he is above the Lantern line, or if not at the Lantern line, he's definitely somebody that can carry his own book. And I agree that it's the lack of imagination on Marvel's part. Silver Surfer is so ultra powerful, but also his power set is very undefined. His powers really fit the story you're trying to tell with him. He can be either too weak to take on an opponent or too strong, depending on like how you want the story to be written. Doctor Strange is the same way. And they do Doctor Strange books, and nobody doubts that you couldn't have a Doctor Strange book. So I don't understand why they can't put out a Silver Surfer book. But that was our first edition of the Lantern line. If you enjoyed this segment, make sure that you're leaving some comments over there at www.lastcomicshoppodcast.com or any of our social media. In any case, we're going to be right back with more Last Comic Shop and our book review for this week. It is All-Star Western, and we're going to decide whether or not Jonah Hex is above that Lantern line. Stay tuned.
Looking to save money on your collectible supplies? Whether it's comics, cards, sports memorabilia, or miscellaneous pop culture bric-a-brac, make sure to use promo code LCSPOD to get 10% off your orders at bcwsupplies.com. Not only does it get you a discount on BCW's already low prices, but using LCSPOD at checkout is an amazing way to show support to the Last Comic Shop podcast, the most incredible comic book podcast on the airwaves. So if you are in need of collectible supplies, head out to bcwsupplies.com and use promo code LCSPOD today. That's promo code LCSPOD. Cheers!
From Fantagraphics, the Santo Sisters Vol.1 hardcover collection. Compiling issues 1 to 5 of the hit indie comic book series. Join Amber and Alana, two ordinary girls with extraordinary powers, as they fight crime, date dumb guys, and try to stay sane in a world full of assassins, zombies, crazy ex-girlfriends, and more. A mix of Archie comics meet Love and Rockets, with a healthy dose of kick-ass action. Order your copy today.
All right, we're back with more of the Last Comic Shop, and it is now time for our Read Pile Review. Yes, that time of every single show where once in a while we throw Ethan a bone and say, Ethan, what do you want to read on our podcast? And Ethan says, I want to read Westerns.
Yes.
Westerns or manga. It's pretty much his bread and butter. Every But that's fine because, again, it broadens our horizons. And we hope that All-Star Western Volume 1, I think it's called Guns in Gotham, or Chad can fill in the details. What are the details this week, sir?
So, as Ethan alluded to at the top of the show, this was a book out of the New 52. The edition we read collects issues 1 through 6, which came out circa 2011, 2012. The main book is the Jonah Hex story, which is written by Jimmy Palmiotti and Justin Gray, who work together quite a bit. Art is by Moritat, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Gabriel Batista does colors. Rob Lee does the letters. And there were some additional cover artists, including Rafa Garris and Ladrone, working on covers for All-Star Western. Now, there were also 2 backup stories as well. One was called El Diablo. That was written by Justin Gray and Jimmy Palmiotti. Jordi Bernay was the artist there, with Rob Schwager on colors. Rob Lee does the letters on that one. And then the second backup story was The Barbary Ghost, with Palmiotti and Gray as writers. Phil Winslade as the artist. Dominic Regan on colors. Rob Lee on letters.
Now, for the 10-cent synopsis for our 250th episode, we thought that we would try something different. We've got J.A. Scott and Ethan Larson being our Legion of Doom. That's right. They're going to get the hot tags back and forth as the 2 of them pitch in 5 cents apiece to this 10-cent synopsis of what happens in these issues. So again, gentlemen, keep those tags clean. I want to see them.
So Jonah Hex comes into Gotham for a bounty and gets involved with Dr. Arkham of the Arkham Asylum. He meets a secret society.
Who killed his prostitute lady friend that he gives money and tells her to get out of town because there's this guy killing prostitutes.
Then that story abruptly ends because Jonah Hex says, I don't care. I still have this bounty on that I have to solve.
That's the Indiana Jones and the Temple of the Doom story, right? Where the kids have been abducted and are digging the Gotham City's sewer system for a rich industrialist whose kid has been kidnapped by the orphanage to draw light on the fact that all these random street kids are being stolen off the street to work as child labor to dig sewer tunnels. And then there's like some savage land and a giant bat, and it all turns out that it's all happening beneath Wayne Manor.
The rich industrialist leaves town and goes to Louisiana, where Jonah Hex chases him down. And then we take a hard left turn into 2 characters we don't care about.
Well, no, because I have questions about one of those 2 characters. Barbary Ghost, which I don't understand, because the Barbary Coast is in North Africa. The whole time I was like, why is she called the Barbary Ghost? She's Chinese. She's not...
I didn't mind, as despite the name of the Barbary Coast character, I actually liked that story.
Yeah. It's very Western. It's very tropey.
It was like that revenge story and like, I don't know, the arrow through the window. I just thought it was neat. And it was self-contained. And I was just like, it's just a cool little revenge Western story. I loved it.
All right, now hang on, wait. When I Googled the old Barbary Coast, it talks about how it refers to the coastal regions of North Africa, specifically Morocco, Algeria. Anyway, but it says more recently, Barbary Coast also refers to a specific area in San Francisco, California, known for its rough and rowdy past during the gold rush era.
There you go. Now it all makes sense to me. I did not know. Thank you. So she's like Fisherman's Wharf. Why did they call it Fisherman's Wharf?
See, this is where your geography knowledge gets you into trouble, because I have no problems with that.
Again, for all intents and purposes, this was how All-Star Western was written in the 60s and the 70s. It was kind of an anthology where you got a bunch of these Western-style characters, whether it was Jonah Hex, whether it was Batlash, whether it was, I don't know, the Zorro clone, whatever it happened to be. I wanted to talk about the hard left turn that happened around like issue 2 in just the main story. Whole storyline about this secret society and the folks with the skull rings and what is it, the religion of crime or something? And I was like, that sounds neat. Well, let's look into that. there's this other story that you completely forgot about because of the thing about crime. Like, it confused me to no end, that hard left, returning to what I guess which was the original storyline to begin with, but nobody seemed to care for 2 issues that was the storyline.
Did we ever find out why they were killing all these prostitutes?
It was part of their like religious plan.
Something with the women. They had to free the town of the women or something.
So they were pulling from that Tom Hanks Dragnet movie.
Listen, all I wanted was at the end of the second story when Jonah Hex and Arkham save all those kids from the Temple of Doom catacombs beneath Wayne Manor, which a gigantic mutant bat down there. Yeah. But couldn't one of those guys had a skull ring and been like, I was running this the whole time? But no, like there's no connection between these 2 stories whatsoever.
Wouldn't you also expect when the Waynes show up, wouldn't you expect them to be like numero uno of this religion of crime? Because like they're one of the highest socialites in the town.
It seemed like everybody that was highfalutin was a part of it. Wouldn't it have been a great left turn if they got, we'll get help from the Waynes? And then
I was waiting for the Society of Evil to change at the end. We've given up this cult of evil, and now we're going to be a court of owls. You know, I thought it was going to relate to something.
Yes, yeah, correct.
A couple of things. First, the Crime Bible is a long-standing DC thing. Okay. So if you ever go back and read the 52, the Crime Bible featured prominently in that. So I was like, okay, I've got my footing there, the Church of Crime. But I feel like this series really does embody the New 52 in so many ways. One, it's a big swing, making a Western comic in 2011. It's not like the market was looking for a lot of Westerns. And so try to bring Jonah Hex in and say, okay, this guy's going to be part of the DC universe proper. They brought in a really solid artist. I love the art in this book. Guys were ugly. The ladies were all prostitutes, but beautiful prostitutes.
Oh, the women in this book are like so gorgeously drawn. You see gorgeous women in comic books all the time, but these are like classy, gorgeous women. Absolutely.
This book has the rough around the edges. It's the violent. It's the spirit of the Westerns. This is going to be unapologetic, right? And so you have those elements, but then you also have a lot of the downsides of the New 52 here as well. Everything was either a Jim Lee clone or Batman. And so what do? They take Jonah Hex and they put him in Gotham City. They team him up with the Arkham ancestor. They're like, do you really need Jonah Hex to run around Gotham? And especially when they're doing this story with the rings and it's concurrent with the Court of Owls storyline, which that's one of the few Batman storylines that introduced new characters that stuck. It just felt like as much as they were trying to do exciting things here, they tried to shoehorn this in such a way that it felt like a cheaper knockoff version. Here's the Western version of the Court of Owls, to the point where they have that giant bat monster. It's like, all right, come on.
I like the bat monster and the cannibal people with the teeth. Those were some of the pages that actually made sense to me. Like I was waiting for the big action scenes because this book really did deliver on the big action scenes. There's like that great couple page spread where everybody from the Church of Crime is coming to kill Jonah Hex, and he just like takes care of business in like a Clint Eastwood style.
Jonah Hex just does every Western trope shootout move, hiding behind the hay bale and sliding down here. They just put them all in like 3 pages.
I've ever seen Outlaw Josie Wales. It takes a lot to kill a dude like this.
Yeah, they do bloodbaths real good. I just want to add a question for you. Was like the New 52 also like this much on ADHD? Because I feel like this was like the ADHD Western. Like it's just like, here's this concept. Look over here now. And then there's another character. I'm over here. I'm here now. I'm dead.
I'm dead. I hate you.
I love you.
A lot of the books that from the New 52 era that I didn't like were the books that were aiming at like the 13-year-old mindset. Which I often lament. Like, I wish they made comic books for 13-year-olds but ones that could work for 20 and 45 and 50-year-olds as well. But I felt like they were aiming like dead set for like a certain lack of maturity and a lack of depth. And even with this book, which is obviously aimed at a more adult audience, the nuance wasn't there. And I think that comes through in some of the ADHD style aspects that you're talking about. There's a simplicity to a good Western, and also like the moral ambiguity. And I feel like they dropped the ball in some aspects. Like they tried to have the moral ambiguity, but then they tried to make things too convoluted to justify why Jonah Hex is teaming up with whatever Arkham, who's teaming up with all the children in the underground, and then the one guy who runs the factory has his son kidnapped by the other guys.
That was unnecessarily complex too.
Yeah.
I thought the story was all right. I do agree that there was no reason for it to be set in Gotham except for the fact that they wanted to set it in Gotham. So, and then they can tie in all this Batman stuff, and at times it was too much, and at other times it wasn't enough. Like, why didn't you use the Court of Owls? If that was going on at the exact same time, that would have been a really nice little intersection. Chad, you know maybe who these were? Who was the Annie Oakley and Roy Roger character right at the end, that one single panel that are in New Orleans? Who are those people?
I'm going to guess that was Nighthawk and Cinnamon. Those are the people that were in the backup of the next two issues. So
Nighthawk, he originally appeared as far back as 1948, Western Comics issue number 5. And later on, he was teamed up with Cinnamon, but that wasn't until the late 70s when she burst onto the scene in Weird Western Tales issue 48.
Wow. Yeah. It was starting to get good when they came in, and I was like, oh, now I gotta tell people.
They must have been people.
They must have been somebody.
Yeah, like importantly, yeah, somebodies. That's what I meant.
No, I'm with you, man. I was like, who are these guys? And then it went to El Diablo. That wasn't El Diablo on the page before. What's going on?
I don't get this. But one thing that I do get is the fact that we got to get to our commercial break. We'll be right back with more of The Last Comic Shop for our 250th edition of ratings as well as recommendations. So stay tuned for both.
Hello, friends. Do you like the 80s and Transformers? We are the Autopod Decepticast, and we started our podcast doing a minute-by-minute breakdown of the 1986 classic animated feature, Transformers the Movie. We've since moved on to an episode-by-episode review of the G1 series and just started Season 3. We have over 180 episodes, so if you're just discovering our show, there's plenty of gold to stuff into your ears, and it is very funny and fantastic. I'm not biased. We are on every podcast aggregator you could possibly stomach: Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, and our web presence is autopoddecepticast.com. We are at APodDcast on Twitter and all of the things. Autopod Decepticast, friends, for all your animated Transformer needs.
My mom has taken up going to the park to practice yoga.
My dad's going to a club, but not a book club, a salsa club.
Finding new hobbies comes with age.
My mom has started getting lost and not knowing where she's going.
Becoming lost or disoriented doesn't. Confusion with time or place may be a sign of Alzheimer's. An early diagnosis can help improve the quality of life for your loved one. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
All right, we're back with more of The Last Comic Shop, and it is now time for ratings, where we hope that you stick around for our rodeo as we round up another rating scale from J.A. Scott. And so is our rating scale 1 out of 4 El Diablos, J.A., or something else?
No, it is not 1 out of 4 El Diablos. As Ethan pointed out, there are many incredibly sexually dressed and drawn women in this that had no impact on the storyline, but they're in it all the time. And everyone was wearing a corset. So we're going to go 1 out of 4 corsets.
Oh,
Scandalous.
Right. Well, I think I'm going to go first in saying that I was excited to read All-Star Western. I had heard some good things about it. And at parts, I was glad that I was reading it. I did enjoy the art. I did enjoy Jonah Hex, again, playing that Clint Eastwood style gunslinger. I like a good Clint Eastwood movie. I like some of the adventure scenes, especially towards that tail end story with them underground and escaping from the waterfall and fighting the cannibals and giant bats. Like, I liked all that. I could have done a lot less with everything that surrounded, because to me, it just seemed all over the place to the point where it was difficult to read. I thought that Dr. Arkham character was going to actually go away, because Jonah Hex was like, go away, and I don't want to see you evermore. And then they're like, no, that was a dumb idea. We need to get these two characters back together again. So shrugs, let's do it. And I was just like, well, that was dumb. Was that like a page that should have been at the end of the book and not like in the middle of it? So I can't give this more than a 2. This is a pretty average comic book. Backups were actually some of my favorites. I did like the El Diablo backup with the zombies. That was like the Night of the Living Dead. And I really did like that Barbary Ghost storyline, but it was a neat little revenge story. So that saves it from being even lower. Chad?
I appreciate the swing. As somebody who likes Westerns from time to time, there's something satisfying there. And the art in here is definitely really interesting, right? I don't think a lot of the women in the Old West were as beautiful as they're portrayed here in this particular story. Yeah, I enjoyed the art. I thought that was fun. I don't think the story was as weak as you did. I thought it made sense. It was just, it suffered from a lot of the maladies of that New 52 era, trying to shoehorn in too much Gotham. You're trying to make everything Batman when it doesn't have to be Batman. It's Jonah Hex and it's Westerns. Like, I haven't read a lot of Jonah Hex, and as I was reading this, I was like, man, I wish I read good Jonah Hex. This wet my whistle for other things where it's not Jonah Hex and Gotham trying to be Arkham's heavy. It's not something I would recommend, so I'm going to give it a 2.5.
Oh, Chad, better or worse than the movie?
There was a movie? Oh, I didn't see that. I can't speak to
anybody
that, so
did,
I apologize.
so you're off the hook. I don't know. I think ADHD Western summed it up when I put it in. I'm on the couch. I'm laying down on the floor. I'm up. I'm down. It's just all over the place. Focus on the secret society and then just to completely ignore them for my original mission, which was bounty hunting. And we're going to get rid of the Dr. Arkham, but then we're going to bring him back because this book doesn't work without him. And then we get all the way to this now very interesting Nighthawk character. And then we just get El Diablo, who's horrible. That's the storyline. It's just bad. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was not very good. Yeah, I think 2.5. I think was a good score. Like I said, I probably wouldn't recommend this either. Unless you really like Westerns and you wanted to sample something in the New 52. That I'm glad that I got to read it. It's another one of those books that's been in my mind for 15 years now, and it's another check off my bucket list. It was that Longbow Chronicles. So you guys have made my nerd life by reading both of those books on this show. So I just wanted to say on your 250th episode that I can sincerely appreciate you guys.
All right, J.A., finish us out.
Yeah, that Jonah Hex movie starred Josh Brolin and had John Malkovich and Megan Fox and Michael Fassbender and Will Arnett and Michael Shannon in it.
So much talent.
So much talent, and yet probably was a bit of a meh movie. This kind of feels like what this book was. So much promise. Did it deliver? Some of it did, some of it didn't. It was interesting, but then I found myself, like you, Chad, wishing that I could have just read a Western Jonah Hex story set in the West and not set in Gotham. The two additional stories were much better, even though one of them was very much Night of the Living Dead and the other one was your typical Western revenge story. But that's Chinese pirate, they operated in the Straits of Malacca. Why wasn't she the Malacca Maiden or something?
Oh, that's a great name. That's what your name should have been.
There you go. So it's 2.5 corsets.
Well, we hope that you call this next segment great. It's called Recommendations. That's what we call it. But for the 250th time, we're going to give you other comic books in addition to All-Star Westerns Vol.1, Volume 2, Volume 3. I think could go up to 5.
And once again, the Googler comes to the rescue. All-Star Western was collected in 6 different volumes, ran through 34 issues. I feel like Stat Boy from...
Well, actually,
I love it.
you will see that this one section of San Francisco was called.
Does AI also say Robin is in the pantheon of DC characters?
There you go. I'm going to Google that too, top DC characters.
But again, we read Volume 1, which you can pick up at your local comic book shop today. But here's some other comic books that you might just want to check out. We're going to go ahead and start off with a guy that just finished, and that would be J.A. Scott. So, J.A., what do you got for recommendations this week?
When I think Western, I think cowboys and Indians. And when I think Indians, I think dinosaur hunters. Because they all go together with Gold Key's classic character, Turok. Not to be confused with Turok Makto from Avatar, but Turok the dinosaur hunter. And I am recommending Dynamite back in the mid-2010s put out a book by Greg Pak, Mirko Kolak, and Corey Smith, Turok the Dinosaur Hunter. It takes place in Manhattan, and there's some Knights Templars, and there's Turok and his tribe, and dinosaurs, because who doesn't love dinosaurs getting shot with arrows?
I thought you were going to talk about the shiny cover from the Valiant era.
I thought you were going to talk about the N64 game, and I got really excited.
Everyone knows Turok. I think that is a property that needs to come back.
Yes.
Some of those Gold Key characters are so good.
Yeah. Some other good characters, and they happen to come from DC, are all of the ones that we talked about today. Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. But in classic style, my recommendation tells a similar tale to what we've got in here, but actually includes them. This is Batman Gotham by Gaslight, The Kryptonian Age. That's right. This was a series of books done by Andy Diggle with Leandro Fernandez and Matt Hollingsworth on art. And I got to say, not only is it really super pretty, but unlike the Jonah Hex stuff where like all the Batman jazz, it was kind of like shoehorned in and made to fit. This is a series I couldn't put down. It kind of comes in at the tail end of the original Gotham by Gaslight, which, if you don't know, is a great Elseworld story where they're like, what if Batman was in Victorian England times?
Also, solving crimes about hookers.
It's true.
Tie-in.
It's true. So they make it all the steampunk and all this stuff. Well, with this series, they take that one step further and they're like, well, what if all the characters? What if the entire DC universe was also
hookers?
there? Not hookers, but just like in this kind of steampunk, just before the turn of the 20th century kind of era. So you have like Superman being a lawman in the West. You get a whole barbarian race of Wonder Women that live in Skartaris, which is that underground...
You'll never find the Skartaris.
It's the underground place where Warlord comes from. And
you can ask his wife. He has no idea where the Skartaris is.
And she's there because Adam Strange goes to the Arctic and looking for like Lovecraftian evils that are there. And it's all about the doom that's coming from Krypton. I can't do this book justice. There's the Legion of the League of Shadows, and they're looking for a Green Lantern ring of all things because it's going to usher in the end times.
They're looking for a Green Lantern to get rid of the shadows. Come on, it was right there.
It's a great series. Very similar to Gotham by Gaslight. There was another great series, Batman, the Doom that comes to Gotham, which Lovecraftian kind of story, but this kind of marries all that stuff together. So if you haven't read Batman Gotham by Gaslight, The Kryptonian Age, I would highly recommend it because I think it's like super good. Chad.
Okay, so if you've been listening to the show for the last couple of weeks, we've done a lot of books that haven't necessarily landed for me, and so I was actually really happy today. I was sitting out on the side porch and I busted out my 10 issues of Tony Fleecs and Dave Wachter's Uncanny Valley. And there's a Western connection here because one of the main characters is a Yosemite Sam style cartoon named Pecos Pete. you have a human kid and his cartoon grandpa, which the kid doesn't know that he's part cartoon. But the cartoon grandpa comes and basically kidnaps the kid, take him to Cartoon Town. In the process, the kid learns, about his heritage. He learns all the cartoon logic, where it's like if you walk off a cliff, as long as you don't look down, you're not going to fall. Or if you paint a tunnel, you can run through it, but the coyotes can't. That sort of stuff. There's hilarity. There's lots of other emotions, too. There's a whole family drama thing going on. But this book, it was just the book that I needed. You're melding the 80s style cartoons with these human characters that I think really sings as a comic book. I don't know if it would work as a live action cartoon. I don't know if it would work as an animated movie or anything else. I think this is the best possible format for it. They combine your traditional kung fu character with the kid that would turn into a car.
Turbo Team! Yes!
But instead in this one, you get Kung Fu Buggy, and it's the best. But there's so many references and so many allusions to all those 80s cartoons in there, and then you get some classic cartoons as well from Disney, from Hanna-Barbera, all those eras. They're light allusions to those things. It was such a great story. It read so wonderfully in 10 issues in and out. Like, I just loved it. So Uncanny Valley is my recommendation. It restored my faith in comic books this week after a bunch of this isn't for me. Like, this book was for me. This was aimed directly at kids that sat there in the mid-'80s, staring at their TV screens every Sunday, watching Smurfs and Snorks and He-Man and Thundar and real Ghostbusters and all the rest.
Was this Kung Fu Buggy guy? Did he look really weird when he changed into a car? Because if you've ever seen Turbo Teen, how somebody's face can morph into the front of a car, it does not look good.
No, it's not pretty.
All right, Ethan, wrap us up. Now, you said you had a recommendation, but it wasn't exactly a comic book, right?
Yeah, actually, and I have two recommendations, if you guys don't mind. I'll stretch the rules a little bit. The first one's something I've been wanting to recommend for a long time now. It's the show on HBO Max called Lazarus. It's from the creator of Cowboy Bebop, and it starts out, they're breaking a guy out of prison so that they can go on a manhunt to find this professor that made a drug that's basically it's supposed to cure all of your pains, but then it's actually a ticking time bomb and everybody's going to die in 30 days unless they can find the professor to get the cure. And so this elite team of badass dudes and dudettes get together and they're trying to find this guy. And so it's a prestige anime. It's, in the Cowboy Bebop fashion. It's got a lot of jazz music to, wonderful action set pieces. So everything that you love about cyberpunk stories and science fiction and anime, all thrown into a blender and give it to you on HBO Max. So it's really good. I recommend it full-heartedly.
I was just going to say, hopefully Netflix doesn't make a live-action version of it, because we've seen what they did with Cowboy Bebop.
Yes, please. And my second and final recommendation is that we have had 250 episodes, and most of them feature a recommendation section at the end of the episode. So go back and listen to all of our episodes. Even if you want to go back and just listen to the last 10 minutes of each of these shows, you're bound to find something that you like in there that speaks to you. Just like Chad found his 80s homage cartoons, and J.A. found his Golden Key characters, and Andy found his Victorian era. All of those books are just quintessentially you three. So it's very appropriate that on the 250th episode, you guys have recommended those. So yeah, go back, find out some other episodes, listen to them. And like I said, you're bound to find something that you'll like in there.
Yeah, and it's very easy to do that. You just go out to www.lastcomicshoppodcast.com. You can rate, review, and subscribe so you don't miss any of our next 250 episodes. But regardless of whether you're going to be listening to new episodes or going to checking out our evergreen archives, we thank everybody that has given The Last Comic Shop even one listen over the past 250 episodes. And we hope that trend will continue into the future.
Or to the All-Star West, which was the book we read today, which you can go out and find at your local comic shop. That's right. Well, we might be the last comic shop podcast. We don't want to be the last comic shop. So get out there, support your shops. Look for things like All-Star Western. Look for things like Lazarus. Look for things like Uncanny Valley. Look for things like Batman, Gotham by Gaslight, The Kryptonian Age. And look for things like Turek, Dinosaur Hunter from Dynamite. So all that and more potentially waits for you at your local comic shop. And then you can circle back to our website, www.lastcomicshoppodcast.com, which in addition to finding links to our socials, you can find what else, J.A.?
For the 250th time, you can find a link to our merch store where we have t-shirts and tote bags and coffee mugs and hats. And I bet you think that this week you can get corsets, but you'd be wrong. Always get corsets. This week, we've got a special on bandoliers.
Oh,
there you go.
What if you wore a bandolier and a corset? I think that
kind of like that Barbary Ghost character did.
Bandoliers? You mean like the Chewbacca one that you could put your Star Wars guys in back in the day?
Yes, except ours won't be made with the foam that disintegrates. So now when you buy them on eBay, it's just plastic.
It was a good idea, though. I think they also made one that was like a laser gun, like a blaster.
I had the G.I. Joe 3-carat ammo pack.
That went through your belt. Yes. I'm with you on that one, buddy. That was the best.
Well, one of the things that you can get over at bcwsupplies.com is containers to keep some of this cool stuff that you picked up as a kid that you want to keep pristine, right? And there's an easy way to save some money, Ethan. What is that?
You'd use our promo code at checkout, LCSPOD, and save yourself 10% on your order. And it's not just for, individuals out there. We also, if you're a comic book shop, if you're a hobby shop, if you're a trading card store, if you're running any of those businesses, and you need bulk supplies, use our promo code LCSPOD. Save yourself 10% on those large orders that you're going to be ordering for your store. Crank up your business, get up those sales, man. And because BCW Supplies has a lot of quality gear that will help your business out. And what else? You said we're doing all-stars, but we want all the stars. We're greedy. Smash that 5-star review when you go to subscribe to our podcast to listen to and download all of our episodes. Go back to listen to 250 episodes, like I said, recommendation section, because there's just a lot of quality content out there that'll keep you enthralled for hours.
Let our charming tones put you to sleep.
See, Andy, I read on the New York Times, the new trend for podcasts is just to do 3 to 4 hours worth of content, and then it just plays in the background of your day.
Oh, wow. Well, maybe we'll have to make some of these super packs. Maybe that will be something that you'll have to check out on our YouTube channel or anything else over.
Is this like the wax packs of podcasts?
Yeah, correct.
Just like a random assortment of
come
4 or 5
episodes. 4 or 5 episodes, all linked together, common themes.
Easily could do. Seriously though, we easily could do a Western one, right? I mean, we've done Lucky Luke, we've done Blueberry, we've done Pulp. Pulp was great.
Yeah, Pulp was good.
You left out Lone Ranger, which I loved and you didn't, but I loved it.
Yeah, Lone Ranger, that was.
Did any of those Westerns get any good ratings? Because
Lucky Luke was okay. That's actually a very popular episode among our Last Comic Shop fans. So you can check out all that stuff, these mega packs, all of those episodes. Again, www.lastcomicshoppodcast.com or our YouTube channel, /@lastcomicshop. Make sure that you're checking that out.
Now you just got me. Blind bag podcast episodes. You don't know what you're going to get. We just smashed them all together.
There you go, man.
But until next week, I'm the host with the most, Danny Larson. I was joined by Chad Smith, Jay Scott, and the wonderful Ethan Larson. And we hope that you stay safe. Stay 250-ish. I don't know what that even means. But one thing that I can say is, you know what a happy cowboy's favorite candy is? It's a Jolly Rancher.
I think we need to read more bad books. Bad books make for good shows.
Yes.
You mean bad books? Because the new 52 is full of both of those things. Bad books and bad books.
Perfect.
Comic Shop podcast was a 2025 Black Angus production.